This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand, fellas. Who jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it. Keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out. But
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screen or draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone. And he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And it's Thomas Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields. Hello, Columbus. 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. 9:30 Eastern Time, the only time zone that matters. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. That's Matt Bruning. That's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp. On an opulent version of tonight's show, are we still buying CJ Stroud stock? Could a certain Kentucky QB be this year's Zach Wilson? And is a transfer in the cards for a certain Texas quarterback? Well, we start with Clay Helton in USC. The Trojans' former head coach was hired in 2015 and took them to a Rose Bowl in his second season. All downhill from there. Helton has never got back to a New Year's Six bowl and finishes his tenure with a 46-24 record. Was this a smart decision, gentlemen, by USC to get rid of Clay Helton?
Yeah, I think they definitely had to do this. USC has not looked good at all this year. They beat San Diego State last week. This game against Stanford was not very close. You know, the score, it was about a 2-touchdown game. They were up by more than that. They kind of gifted USC some scores there at the end of the game. This team has no identity, and I think that's the big problem. If you're going to be a head coach in college, and you're going to be a winning head coach in college, especially at a major Division I program, you have to have some sort of identity. You can think of virtually any of the top coaches out there right now. Nick Saban for a long time was a crushing defense, and now they've gone to more of a flexible offense. Is kind of what they're known for. They build around the pieces they have there. At Ohio State, Ryan Day is known for being able to teach up quarterbacks and explosive offense. Same with Lincoln Riley down at Oklahoma. Clay Helton, I honestly can't tell you what the USC team is good at. They are a high volume passing attack, but I don't think they're an overwhelming efficient or strong one. I don't think they've ever really been very good on the ground. Their defenses have never been anything special. And I think more importantly, just beyond an identity, but they have not recruited Southern California well. They've let all of the top talent leave there. They're going to Texas, to the SEC, to Ohio State, to Oregon, which is the real big ouchie there, losing kids from your own backyard to a big conference rival. So
Justin Flo.
It had to be done. It was coming sooner rather than later. We talked all offseason about the chances of him being fired. Probably happened a little earlier than we thought. But no, I can't say this was shocking, and I think it was smart on their part.
I mean, it was very predictable. We predicted this back in the offseason, and the next question is who is it going to be? I mean, Urban Meyer is circulating now, but we always thought Matt Campbell, Luke Fickell, could be a potential candidate to go there. Hey, what about Joe Brady or Lane Kiffin? Lane Kiffin going back to USC. So, I think this was predictable. The one question I have, Matt, is USC even a top 10 college football program?
Right now, no. I mean, they have the prestige, so I think they could get back there if they make the right hire. You mentioned a couple guys. I do think Lane Kiffin might be smart to go back. I don't want Joe Brady to go back there after Kevin dropped the Joe Brady to Chicago with Justin Fields. I can't get that out of my head now. But Luke Fickell, I don't know if that would be I think he's great at building culture. Felix, I know you listen to Late Kick with Josh Pate. He talks a lot about that and how that changes schools. I think that would be a smart move for them. I don't understand why they didn't make this firing earlier in the year or before the season even started. It kind of felt like they made this move now because they were looking for the first thing to do to just get rid of him. I think they should have just fired him to begin with, because now you're going to have other schools that open up. The big one is LSU. A lot of people are talking about if Ed Orgeron goes. I don't know that a coach is going to pick USC over LSU. So no, right now I don't think they're a top 10 school. Maybe top 15, top 20, but top 10, no.
It feels like it was a total lose-lose for programs, especially like USC this offseason following the COVID year. The Pac-12 played the fewest games of any of the conferences last year. So firing somebody after last year would have felt harsh and probably would have faced quite a bit of public backlash. So teams were almost damned if they did and damned if they didn't. This isn't shocking. I will say the Athletic, they did a recent poll where they reached out to a lot of people within the college football sphere, and they polled them and say, what are the best head coaching jobs in the NCAA? USC finished 6th. So I still think amongst people in the profession, it still holds a lot of weight, even if we don't really think of USC right now as as like the 6th best place to be for a head coach. I think coaches and athletic directors and people in the game very much think.
Let's check that. I'm looking at just SEC teams. Alabama, Georgia, better jobs than USC. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
LSU, better job than USC.
I would say yes. I would say
yes too.
I think it's
Florida.
Close. I don't think Florida's a better job.
I wouldn't say Florida.
Okay. Then not Texas A&M?
No. I'd put Texas over them, but that's just because it's Texas. I mean, not because of – I think with the prestige that comes with Texas. I mean, just off the top of my head, you're talking outside of those that you just mentioned, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State. Is that really
Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah, I'd put Oklahoma above them.
I don't think Michigan's a better job. The thing about USC that's so unique is that when things are clicking at USC, when you have the right guy there, you have your pick of one of the most fertile recruiting grounds in the entire country. Yeah. It's not Florida that competes with Florida State, and then Georgia and Bama go in there and successfully can bring those kids out, even when Florida's really good. If USC is good, those kids don't leave Southern California. They stay home, and UCLA will never be a threat in terms of recruiting pool to them.
And it's always got nice weather and beaches, so you can't beat that. So,
but you know what? The Pac-12 as a whole, I'm not sure the last time it actually mattered as a conference. So we spent too much time talking about USC.
The Alliance. Give it a couple more years.
How good have teams in the Big Ten been, though, outside of Ohio State? And they've been nationally relevant. How good have teams in the ACC been consistently outside of Clemson? And they've been nationally relevant. Florida State had those couple years, but I mean, no one's consistently been great alongside those schools, and they've been just fine.
I know you want to move on past USC, but to point more toward Austin's point, I mean, if you go back to what Pete Carroll was able to do in like the Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush era, if you can get a team rolling like that, it doesn't matter. I think most of these kids, they want to be in the playoffs. They want to compete. They want to be able to show they can do it against the best so they can make it to the NFL level. If you can get a coach that can prove he can do that and get teams in the playoffs, and I agree with Austin, a lot of those California kids aren't going to Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon. They're staying in California and going to USC.
All right. That was some of the big news in week 2 after week 2 is Clay Helton getting fired. But what are some other takeaways specifically with players after, now that we have 2 games in the books? Matt, what did you learn in week 2?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about Will Levis because I posted a picture of his QBR rating per Jarek's little magic line and tool and everything. And while I am not going to say that he is a first-round pick right now, I know there's a lot of people who are jumping on that train. I definitely think he's someone to watch after 2 games, right? So through 2 games, 44 of 28 for 44, I'm sorry, 546 yards, 63.6 completion percentage, but only 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But he does have 5 big-time throws for an 11.1 percentage. He has 0 turnover-worthy plays in 2 games. He has done most of his damage going deep. 292 of his 546 yards have come on passes over 20-plus yards. That is 4th in college with a 22.7% of his attempts. He has got 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on that. And his ADOT is 33.7 yards. That is 18th in college. If you just take away the deep passing, his ADOT is 12 yards, which is 16th in college. He's got the legs. He's got the arm. He can make plays. Obviously, he's not been consistent. He technically got beat out by Sean Clifford, if you want to throw that in there to why he ended up leaving, going to Kentucky. I don't want to say he's a first-round pick right now, but I do think he is worth watching because the one thing, and Ray pointed this out on Twitter, and I do agree with him 100% on this, is quarterbacks are overvalued at the NFL level because everybody is looking for that next guy. That's what the NFL runs on is quarterbacks. So those guys are going to be overdrafted at times and sometimes boosted up even when they are not that good. I mentioned the 2011 class with like Christian Ponder. I don't even remember anybody. I know Cam Newton was the best of that class. I don't even remember the other crappy quarterbacks in that class. You're muted, Felix, so I don't know who you're saying.
I said Jake Locker, EJ Manuel.
There you go.
I mean, all those guys. Yeah.
It was, and I feel like that's what this class is starting to look like. Like I could see maybe one quarterback really being successful and a lot of these other guys just kind of not being good. And so I think you have to give a guy like Will Levis, who right now on the field is showing that he possibly could do it, some credit. I'm not going to put him as a first round or even a second round pick right now, but if he goes out there, he's got some tough matchups coming up, specifically one against Georgia in a couple weeks. If he's able to go out there and produce against that defense, I think you've got to give him some credit.
Yeah. I mean, I think Will Levis right now is fun to watch. You could get him absolutely at the end of your startups this year. But that's all I'm going to say about him right now. Austin, what are some of your takeaways from week 2?
Yeah, I have 2 here. One's a player and one's not. But my first one.
And Austin, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm elephant in the room. What are your thoughts about Will Levis as a prospect, as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's closer to day 3 than he is to day 1 right now. I would not bet on him. The Georgia game is going to be really interesting. What I watched the Kentucky-Mizzou game in its entirety. I've actually watched it basically twice. I recorded it and went back and watched it again afterward, just watching Kentucky's offensive plays. He has been a really effective deep. He really, really has. The thing about, like, especially the Missouri game, there were really only 2 throws he had. That deep bomb that he threw, and then he had another really nice throw to the opposite hash. A kind of a timing throw. 3 steps, quick, fired it over, was a nice pass. Beyond that, though, I have not seen any sort of anticipatory throwing out of him at all. He's throwing into giant windows. He's basically, when he goes deep, it's just deep posts where the safety is in the box because they're so worried about Chris Rodriguez. But he has 2/3 of the field as his net to throw into, and he just throws it into that area unless the receiver run into it. He certainly has the arm strength and those kind of tools. I have always said that coming out of Penn State, he's been able to do those things. I think even in a mediocre quarterback class, though, I think there's almost 0 chance he goes before Malik Willis would this year. I think there's almost a 0% chance that he would go before any of Corral, Howell, Rattler, and then there's definitely a couple of other names. I don't think he would go before Ritter. And the other thing that would hurt him if he were to come out this year, that has helped players that have maybe not been in offensive systems lately that have really shown what they can do. He doesn't get the Senior Bowl. He's not eligible for the Senior Bowl this year. Yeah. Guys like Justin Herbert have gone to that and really showcased what they can do for some of these scouts. He is not going to be afforded that opportunity if he were to come out for the 2022 draft. So I think that is something that actually would negatively impact him, or at least would not positively impact him were he able to participate. So that's kind of my thoughts on Will Levis personally.
I think there's a better shot he comes out in 2023 because of that. Because, and I hate to say this, I don't want to give away anything we're going to talk about later. I've really soured on the 2023 class. I'm just outside of Bryce Young. I mean, I think I know DJU is going to be good, but this year has really worried me. And I mean, we'll get to Stroud obviously later too. Hudson Card. I mean, right now, you could argue he could be a first-round pick if he waited until 2023, if he continued to do this, because I agree with everything you said, Austin. The only thing I don't want to say I have an issue with, I don't think anticipatory throwing matters that much. We see a lot of guys like Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott. Baker doesn't do it as much, but they're very much see it, throw it guys. When they see the player open, they throw it because of the way they can zip it in there. It doesn't matter. Not everybody has to be Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, so I don't think that matters as much. But I do agree that I haven't seen enough of those big-time throws of him fitting it into windows, trying to make that perfect throw, if that makes sense. You are seeing a lot of him hitting Wandale, who's got 10 yards of separation on the defensive back. I would argue you could probably go out there and make the throw. Maybe not 60 yards down the field like he is, but
I've got a noodle arm. I'm Chad Pennington. I'm Chad Pennington, post-shoulder injury.
And Austin, I cut you off for making your week 2 observation. So
no, you're good. Yeah. I was going to say Alabama. I think so far this season, I watched 9 football games this past week and 9 college football games. I watched many more week 1. They are the prohibitive favorite. Like, I don't even think it's a question at this point. I know it's not time for Austin's lukewarm take yet, but I just don't see how there's any team that's going to touch them this year. Georgia is the closest, and to be honest, I don't think Georgia is the well-rounded machine that Alabama is. For the first time in a few years, they are big and fast on defense. They can rally to the ball. They can get after the quarterback. They are fast in the defensive backfield, and that offense is not going to skip a beat at all this year with Bryce Young. They're averaging almost 500 yards per game of offense. They're allowing less than 250. I know they're not playing the toughest schedule either with, in the world with Mercer, but they played Miami week 1. It's not like they played a couple directional schools here. They've got a huge stable of running backs. If JoJo and Gia Hall and some of these guys continue to develop at wide receiver, I see no reason why they aren't just going to absolutely steamroll the SEC, go into the playoff, and do exactly what they did last year. I don't
think it's through. I mean, you're saying they're going to steamroll Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Steamroll Georgia.
Steamroll Georgia. He's talking about Alabama.
Georgia steamroll Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, let's be honest. We thought maybe they were shutting down Clemson's offense, and then Clemson's offense went out last week and absolutely crapped the bed. So that performance perhaps looks, a little less.
I don't think we've seen Georgia's best football though, so I'm gonna wait and see on that one. I can't wait to see that game though. They should both be undefeated at that time of the season, but they should both absolutely. Whoever loses that game, if they are undefeated, they should still make the playoff. My observation is, I mean, we got to talk about Brandon Thomas. You talked about that 2023 class, Matt. He is going to be a part of it, and it's just a matter of where does he fit amongst that, what we consider to be an elite running back class. He's obviously going to be more productive than Kendall Milton. He's going to be more productive than Jace McClellan, and he's probably going to be right there with Zach Evans, probably even more productive than Zach Evans, but he's a different kind of running back. If we're going to give credit to 5'11", 200-pound Kyron Williams and say that he's a potential day 2 pick, well, then we need to give the same credit to Brandon Thomas, who is a much more physical runner. I can't believe that he's only 200 pounds, and he's just as explosive. So Austin, you talked about it in the waiver wire column this week, that he's an absolute must-add. Not only is he, and I think that Brandon Thomas is 5'11". I think he's 5'11", 200. I think that's what he's listed on the website. So he is. Brandon Thomas was an absolutely must add this week. I got him in one of my main leagues. I was very excited to do so. But I think that even now we can talk about where do we place him amongst Kendall Milton, Jace McClellan, Zach Evans, because that's the second tier of running backs in that 2023 class after Jahmyr Gibbs, Tank Bigsby, and Bijan Robinson. And I don't think it's too early to say, yeah, slide him right there or slide him to the top of that tier. Austin, I know that you like Zach Evans, and we're going to have a conversation about him. But, I mean, I would like to – I mean, is it too early? Is it too early? Is 2 games and over 300 yards rushing in those 2 games? Is it too early to say that Brandon Thomas belongs in that tier?
The Sharps had him before this week. Just throwing that out there.
The Sharps had him, but I don't know that anyone – was saying, okay, let's consider this guy's place in the 2023 class.
Matt.
Oh, I really don't have much else to say on him. I'm not putting him above Zach Evans yet, but I do think I agree he needs to be put in that tier. I'll even say, and I got a bunch of crap about this on our running back summit ranking. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Thomas goes out there and outproduces Jahmyr Gibbs right now, because dude hadn't been doing anything really. He's not been able to run the ball that well.
He hasn't, but Jahmyr Gibbs has played fine. Look, Jahmyr Gibbs, the dynamic that he adds as a pass catcher.
I'm not saying he's better than Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if he outproduces Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. I agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Thomas ends up being the RB1 in college fantasy this year. Like him and Isaiah Bowser are probably going to go head to head there on that.
I mean, I said it. I didn't realize you were writing the waiver wire column. And so in my draft, I said that, this guy's going to be productive. He could be the RB1, that he was a push all your chips in type of acquisition. So.
And it's not like, we like Sincere McCormick. He's a little undersized, but whatever. He's at UTSA, though. It's not like Brandon Thomas is at UTSA. He's at a school that has produced running back talent over the past 5 years. And the majority of that staff, Norvell's gone, but they just promoted the offensive coordinator there. It's the same guy that was there with Darrell Henderson and Tony Pollard and Kenny Gainwell. And Thomas is just a bigger player. But I mean, I think that has to feel good. Like we had to account for that a little bit when we're kind of
they're the same size, but
I don't think he's actually 200.
Stylistically, they're totally different though. Thomas plays with a forward lean. He's hard to wrap up. We haven't seen him catch the ball yet, but you're absolutely – I mean, he's different than the guys who've been there. Kenny Gainwell, Darrell Henderson, those guys were like slashers. Brandon Thomas is a 200-pound explosive thumper. And so he's got one – I mean, he can go to the NFL in 2023. Maybe he'll stay all 4 years. But if he is out there on your waivers, to anyone listening to this, priority at all your 100% fab, Brandon Thomas, 100% fab. All right. We got more observations. Yes, Matt.
I mean, I've got one if you want me to talk about it. I think right now, and I know Austin's mentioned him before. He talked a little bit about him last year and this year. Dante Demas, I think, is the guy to own right now. Wide receiver at Maryland. He's senior, 6'3", 217. Right now, he's tied for 9th in receiving yards at 261. He's got 16 targets and 12 receptions, which is only one more target than Jarrett, but he has outproduced him. Jarrett sitting right now with 189 yards. He's played 96.9% of his snaps on the outside, while Jarrett has been the primary slot receiver for Maryland at 94.1% in the slot. His ADOT is sitting at 11, while Jarrett's is only sitting at 5. He's 4th in downfield receiving yards. 167 of his yards have come on passes over 20-plus yards. He has run 41.7 yards per route on those deep passes, which is actually second in college behind Raheem Jarrett. He seems to be the deep threat there for Talia. And I think with Maryland's passing attack, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they only lose a game. Maybe 2 in the Big Ten. I think they're going to challenge Ohio State when they play them in about a month from this weekend. I mean,
whoa! Timeout. What are you saying about Maryland?
That they're going to challenge Ohio State.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be good. I said they're going to challenge Ohio State because their secondary couldn't stop me.
Who's the one who said that Maryland was this year's Indiana? Who said that?
In fairness to you, you did say that, but just to give you a little slice of humble pie, you also said Indiana was going to be good. You said Michigan was going to be good. You might have even said Northwestern at one point in time was going to be good.
I didn't say
you said Minnesota might be able to do something. My point is you've like crowned a lot of schools to do something. So yes, you hit on one of like the 30 we talked about this offseason.
I have been on Maryland and what Mike Loxley is doing there, and improvements in recruiting that they've had, and I've even compared it to what Indiana's done and how, Loxley is actually improving in their recruiting rankings and Tom Allen is kind of staying stagnant. So can somebody give me some credit for once? Just once.
I mean,
somebody
you did enough back padding last week, and we can.
That's because I don't need you to. That's
you
because
literally
I
said,
don't
"Who do I
to.
trust?" Me.
Yeah,
last
me.
week.
Yeah.
That's right. Me. I trust me. Okay. Austin, do you have another one?
I mean, the only other thing that I've, a guy that's really just jumped out to me this year beyond Brandon Thomas, Tyler Beatty, running back at Missouri, is somebody that I think we really need to get accustomed to possibly putting as a day 2 NFL draft pick this year. The guy has been killing it in the receiving game and the rushing game. He is Mizzou's leading receiver right now, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's got 16 targets, 13 catches, and it's not just dump off stuff. Like he is working downfield as well. He had a long catch a couple weeks ago. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's 205 pounds, so he's not a huge back, but I think he's got enough size, and he's physical. He's like Kyron Williams, more physical than maybe his size would suggest. I think he's better already than like Jerry Ely, another undersized back. Say what you want about Eric Ray, but Eric Ray's in the most amazing situation ever, and he's done jack shit this year. And Tyler Beatty has been the offense for Mizzou. I'm not saying that I think he's a legitimate day two draft pick this year, and I think that he's going to just have an enormous season. I think we need to definitely be moving him up lists here.
Yeah, just to narrate your point there, Austin, he has actually played. Where is it right here? I'm horrible with math. About 18% of his snaps have come not just in the slot, but actually out wide as well. He's running about 3 yards per route. So as you mentioned, it's not just dump offs. It's not stuff coming from behind the line of scrimmage.
Tyler Beatty in a bad 2022 draft class, he could absolutely be a riser. Austin, you got some housekeeping for us? Housekeeping?
Yeah, if you guys have not been checking out the 2 weekly shows here at Campus to Canton on Saturdays, I highly recommend you do so. We got the Tailgate, kicks off 10 a.m. every weekend, 2 hours there that previews all of the college football action, both from a CFF and a DFS and gambling type place. We've got our Prize Picks partnership that we have now. Promo code C2C gets you a first-time depositor a full match on their first deposit up to $100. And if you deposit at least $20, you get a free membership with us. Our membership costs $30. So
Time out.
I'm never
With
doing
Prize
housekeeping
Picks.
again.
So are you telling me that with Prize Picks, you can enter promo code C2C, right? And you can win money. You can pick lines and you can win money back, right? You can do that. Yes. Don't mute yourself, Austin. Yes.
No, I quit. I quit housekeeping.
2, you get a match. Austin has actually left the chat. You get a match of up to $100. And if you deposit $20, you get a free membership to campus2can.com, which is $30 in and of itself. It's a no-brainer deal. Prize Picks. Promo code C2C. Go do it right now. And if you want to subscribe to the site, it's only $2.99 a month or $29.99 for the year. That's also a no-brainer deal if you're not going to use Prize Picks, but use Prize Picks. And of course, we would appreciate reviews of either Campus to Canton or Devy Debate, the Campus to Canton podcast channel or the Devy Debate channel specifically itself. But we're going to be giving away something here, so we haven't done a giveaway in a long time. I've realized that we have to bribe you guys to get reviews, and so we're going to do that. We'll figure out what
everybody likes free stuff. Everybody likes free stuff.
Everybody likes free stuff, and you know what? We like giving away free stuff. We've given a Javonte Williams jersey. We've given away a Kyler Murray jersey. Are those the two, Matt Bruning?
Yeah, we were supposed to give away a Zach Wilson jersey, but then someone else ended up with it. So
sorry. I mean, when you shoot from that deep, got to get the jersey in there. All right. So, man, I love giving myself pats on the back.
We know.
Matt Bruning, who are you dropping now? We got 2 weeks of information. Who are you dropping?
I really don't like to drop players after a week or two because I just don't believe. I mean, if you were to go back to I know this is kind of cherry picking here, but if you were to go back to last year and go to like 2 weeks that Justin Fields had back-to-back, you'd be dropping him to like QB5 in a class like Felix did, behind Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. So I don't necessarily like to do that. The only player that really kind of comes to mind right now is Hudson Card, who I know we'll talk about later. Getting benched for Casey Thompson, who I don't believe is a better quarterback, but Card looked raw in that game against Arkansas. He just did not look ready, did not look prepared. I think there's probably a better chance that he transfers and starts again for Texas this year. So he would be the one player. I'm not getting rid of him. I don't know if I'd even trade him because I still think he's got a shot to be a decent college quarterback, but I'm definitely dropping him in my ranks, I guess, to answer the question that way.
Yeah, I'm going to say that 50% of that 2020 Ohio State wide receiver class should be dropped. Julian Fleming, G. Scott.
He's not a wide receiver.
And I'm
tight end. He's tight end.
I said that 2020 Ohio State wide receiver class. That's what he came in as, right? So,
yeah.
And then I'm holding on to Mookie Cooper. I'm holding on to Jackson Smith and obviously JSN. But those are the folks I'm dropping. Here's a question. And Austin, I want to hear your drops too. Kendall Milton hasn't been efficient with his touches at all yet in his career. I mean, they played UAB this past week, and I think he had 8 carries for 26 yards, averaging 3.6 a carry. Would you trade Kendall Milton for Brandon Thomas?
Yeah, but I could,
because Brandon Thomas is going to help you win on the college side of a campus to Canton league. So if you were given the opportunity, would you trade Kendall Milton for Brandon Thomas, Austin?
Not straight up, but yeah, I would do that. I don't have any Kendall Milton. I have a lot of Brandon Thomas. That tells you all I need to know right there. Yeah, I would trade. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Bruning?
Yeah, I mean,
just because Bruning, it's a audio medium, so you can't shrug your shoulders.
I'm sorry, my son was standing right here, so I was giving you a little a video cue before I went to the audio. Yeah, probably. I still believe in Kendall Milton. I believe I'm still the highest on him at the site. But based on what you just said right there, I mean, getting Brandon Thomas, who I do agree with you guys likely could end up, if not RB1, at least a top 5 RB for CFF this year and moving forward till next year as well. So I would definitely trade for him because we've mentioned many times, I value winning on the college side. So,
Austin, who you dropping?
So not only is he dropped, I believe, outside of my top 100 wide receivers, but I think he can safely be dropped, or at least, because you can't find a trade partner in any sort of scenario. Damon DeMoss is done. He is toast. That wide receiver room is atrocious at Texas A&M. They have zero talent there. It's a bunch of Jags. You have this kid that's supposed to be basically the best athlete at the position in all of college football, and he's played 15 snaps this year. He has no catches. He has no statistics. A guy that's in his second year, didn't play his senior year of high school, basically played nothing last year, and again is barely touching the field this year. There is no value left there to be had. It's never going to be a thing. It's a very much a cautionary tale of valuing just sheer athleticism over being able to play the wide receiver position in a time where these kids are starting these 7v7 circuits and professional coaching at such an early age that if you don't have at least a little bit of an idea of how to play wide receiver going into college, then you're probably not going to make it. I think it's very rare that we see that nowadays. So let this be a lesson for all of us. Damon DeMoss. We'll tell our grandkids about this someday.
I accidentally took him in a league because I was sorting through my queue and I wanted to put him in my queue, and I just put him at the top so I could reorganize the rest of the players. And as I was doing that, it came to me on the clock and I had auto pick on, and so it just took Damon DeMoss, and I was like, okay, I'm fine with it. And I wasn't fine with it. I should have asked for some sort of relief. All right, gentlemen, are we ready for the Devy Debates?
Let's do
it.
Matt Bruning, let's throw this to you first. True or false? We've been doing a lot of true or false Devy Debates. We're going to have to switch that up here soon. Will Levis is this year's Zach Wilson.
I will say false because I think there's a better shot he comes out in 2023 than 2022. So keep it nice and easy. We talked a lot about him earlier. So
that is the easy answer. And we did talk ourselves out a little bit on him. So thanks, Matt, for putting him as your answer earlier in the show. That's a very call-in move, just for the record.
Well, look, when we get to CJ Stroud, I'm going to need a minute, so I'm trying to keep this part of the show short so we can get to what I want to talk about.
Perfect. No, he will not ascend to the second overall pick. Whatever you think of Zach Wilson, shouldn't he have gone there? I think we all agree he probably should have been a top 10 pick regardless. I don't think Will Levis gets there. No.
I don't understand what people don't understand about Zach Wilson. He was an 18-year-old freshman starter who unseated a 2-year starter who was like 25 years old in Tanner Mangum. We saw flashes of what Zach Wilson would be as an 18-year-old freshman. We haven't seen that from Will Levis. So unless you can show me Will Levis, as an 18-year-old freshman playing against whomever and going 18 for 18 in the Idaho Potato Bowl against Western Michigan, then he's not Zach Wilson. False. All right. Austin, true or false? We should be worried about DJ Uyunglele.
Yeah, I think this is true, actually. I'm not necessarily making any sweeping changes to him in my rankings, but yeah, I really do think we should be worried. And I think, as we talked last week, some of the blame for that week 1 loss and how he looked against Georgia was definitely partially game plan and the play caller putting that all together. But then he went out last week against South Carolina State and was just not very good. 14 for 24, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 171 yards. He's not running at a particularly effective clip like I think a lot of people expected him to. Only 5 carries on the year, 23 yards. He does have the 2 touchdowns, but neither of them were, kind of a long marauding run like we thought he would. He just doesn't look sharp. And again, I kind of talked about with Will Levis. I think the receivers are not getting a ton of separation, but he does not also seem like a great anticipator. He just really doesn't seem like there are times where a receiver gets open and he kind of, he's second guessing it before he lets go of it. I think he needs to clean up some of that stuff. I'm a little worried, but he certainly has plenty of time to rebound.
I'm not worried about DJU. The way he came in and played against Boston College and Notre Dame, I'm not going to let 2 games let me fade him. We've seen we even saw Spencer Rattler start the season slowly last year. And then there's a thing that we can hang our hats on with DJ Uyunglele. He has like Jamarcus Russell level arm talent, just a complete howitzer. And so, but I think mentally he's more there than Jamarcus Russell was. I don't think that you can play as well as he did in a high pressure situation as a freshman if he didn't. So I don't have a problem with him. I will say this though. I don't know where this came from that DJU was going to be a rusher. I think that he is a drop back passer who can scramble if needed, but to be used as a power rusher, I don't really see that in his game. I will say this though, that could absolutely help a quarterback get in rhythm and get comfortable, and it could challenge a defense, put you in, more zones and change defensive looks and things like that. So if I was an offensive coordinator, I would want to get him more comfortable by running the ball, but I don't know that that's necessarily his game, but I still love his game. I love his poise. I love his arm talent. That's an absolute, it's absolutely a first round arm talent. It's a number 1 overall pick arm talent. We just got to see him develop. He started slowly, fine. A lot of players have. Matt, do you think that we should be worried about DJU?
Yeah, I am. I mentioned it earlier. I don't shift my rankings. I just recorded a new podcast earlier this week, and I talked about how I still have DJU as my number 1 quarterback overall in college. That's not going to change after 2 games. I do agree with you. We did get to see a lot out of him against Notre Dame, Boston College. I would argue the Notre Dame defense is maybe half a step down from what we've seen of Georgia's defense right now. So we've seen him compete against a very good defense. I know they lost that game, but it was not because of DJU last year. But he has not also looked like the same player this year, and that is a little bit concerning to me. We've seen, and I understand maybe not against better competition, but Bryce Young has gone out there and lit the world on fire. And maybe he's got better talent around him, whatever. He's just looked better overall. So I'm not panicking at a point where I'm trying to sell DJU or I'm all out on him, but I am concerned. My panic meter is up at like a 3 right now. I'm not getting rid of him. I'm not dropping him down to QB 10 behind whomever. But I want to see more of him, and it's almost become appointment viewing of like, is he going to get better throughout the season right now? Will Levis, 100%. I'm just kidding.
All right. Let's skip around here. True or false? CJ Stroud, Austin Nace, has been fine for the Buckeyes so far.
Yeah, I was allowed to word the questions here tonight, so I worded this one like this to make it a little more difficult. I think he has been fine. I think he's been fine. He's not been awful. He's not been great. He's been fine. He's been up and down, as I would expect most first-time quarterbacks, first-time starting quarterbacks to look, especially at a program that's as big with as much pressure as at Ohio State. I think that what gets lost a lot of the time is that these quarterbacks need time to develop. People write off quarterbacks in college and the NFL level after like a year. People said Baker Mayfield was crap after his rookie year and partway through his second year. There are a ton of quarterbacks like that. I
mean, you still say he's crap.
No, I just would rather have Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of room between crap and not as good as Aaron Rodgers.
Well, we'll see. I saved some audio from that episode. We'll see. That's Perfect. Not exactly what you said, but sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
Perfect. We write off these quarterbacks. I don't think Stroud should be written off. Statistically, he's been great for if you're playing college fantasy, he's been awesome. But he does need to step it up. I don't think he's in danger of losing that job either. So he's been fine, just fine.
Should I go first so we can leave the?
Yeah, go ahead, because I have a question I want to ask both minutes. Of you. So it will take like 3. Okay. But I have another. I want to add a question onto this. So yeah, go ahead.
I think that he's played like a first-year starting quarterback, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, you look at him statistically. I think his numbers make him look better than he's actually played. He is a player who does not stretch a defense or challenge a defense vertically. He is not a player who challenges a defense with his rushing ability, but he has done what the offense has asked of him for the most part. It's just that he's coming right behind Justin Fields, who was always throwing the ball downfield. I would place some blame on Ryan Day. And here, Matt Bruning has talked about how he believed Justin Fields was not allowed to run. And to me, that was confirmed on Saturday against Oregon, because there is a play where there was nobody in front of CJ Stroud, like no one in front of him, and he stayed parallel to the line of scrimmage to be able to throw for much longer than he should have. And then when he actually took off to run, he was still hesitant. That's something that's being coached in him, that he's not to be aggressive running the ball. And it's hard to play football when you are thinking about whether or not you're going to get in trouble for something. And I don't know what's going on in the Ohio State locker room or how they're being coached. I do know how coaches work. And that just looked like a play where the play, it should have gone for 20 yards. It ended up going for like maybe 7 or 8. He should have been aggressive running, much earlier in the play, this play against Oregon, and he wasn't. And so I think that that's on Ryan Day. But to answer the question, no, I think that CJ Stroud has been absolutely fine. I mean, he's been on national television, 2 big games, twice back-to-back. I mean, Ohio State is always going to be playing in big games. But he's been fine. Let's see how a first-year quarterback who has, a 7-2 touchdown to interception ratio, let's see how he develops. Let's give him a chance. I will say this. You can't be throwing bubble screens on 3rd and 7. Like, defenses are going to catch up to that and start smacking your slot receivers. He's got to start throwing the ball downfield, Matt Bruning.
I agree. He's been fine. And that's been my argument this entire time. He's been fine. I've said Ohio State, whether other people want to admit this or not, and I guess you guys can tell me I'm wrong on this, they are considered by most to be an elite program, and they compete for national championships every single year. It's not we've got this first-year starting quarterback, and if he struggles, we'll worry about it in 2022. No, they want to win in 2021. My biggest issue with Stroud is exactly what you said, Felix. The stats are inflated a little bit, and I think a lot of people are just looking at the stats and saying, oh, yeah, CJ Stroud's been good. If you watch the games, he doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. I had his stats up here. When he is pressured, he's throwing 50% completion percentage. When he's blitzed, 57%. That is the worst out of players such as Bryce Young, even DJU, Michael Pratt, and I went back and looked at Mac Jones because I felt like the pressure of having Bryce Young behind him last year, I think somewhat applies to Stroud because he's got a Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers, and realistically Jack Miller, although we don't think Jack Miller may be up in that, but all those guys behind him. It is the worst out of all of those quarterbacks. To point on the stats, Felix, you mentioned he threw, or I don't know if you mentioned it, but he threw for 484 yards last week. 294 of those came after the catch. Now, I understand you could probably go out and pull that out from multiple quarterbacks. I'm sure Bryce Young in that first game against Miami with some of the big plays that he hit, some of that's coming after the catch. But realistically, so he threw for less than half of his yards were before the catch. His ADOT is not great. It was 12. Some of that got boosted up to 10, boosted up to 12 on some of the big plays from Minnesota. Ohio State wants to win this year. So my question to you guys is going to be, when or if do you pull him? Because they have not looked good. And I think all three of us would honestly say if 3 of Oregon's best 4 defenders were on the field Sunday, that game was not even as close as it was. That was not a 6-point game. I think Oregon beats them by 14 points if Justin Flo plays, if Thibodeau plays, if that defensive back plays, because Stroud is missing players left and right. Yes, I went back and rewatched the game. He made 2 really good throws. He missed wide open wide receivers multiple times. Now, maybe it is unfair to him. You mentioned Felix. He's following up on Justin Fields. We never saw that from Justin Fields. He did not miss wide open wide receivers. Or when he did, it rarely happened. So maybe we are judging Stroud unfairly because of the player that followed him. But he does have 2 5-star quarterbacks behind him. 2 quarterbacks that we all believe are going to be very good. If we truly believe that Ohio State is still a playoff team, you cannot continue to struggle with this quarterback. And my biggest issue with him is beyond the X's and O's. He does nothing special to win you games that we have seen. I understand it's only been 2 games, but at times you need, when the X's and O's break down and you need your quarterback to make that big play, he has not been able to do it. So I'm not saying he should be benched. I think he should continue playing and being the starter. But would you, either one of you're called up today by Ryan Day, hey, I want you to come in, be the quarterback's coach, and I want your opinion on who should start, all that. When or if would you pull CJ Stroud and start any of the other 3? My love for McCord does not have to be, it could be Quinn Ewers, Jack Miller. I don't care. I'm just curious as to what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah. And you know who's going to be able to tell us that is the wide receivers. When you watch their body language, when he misses them, or when he throws, out of their catch radius, you're going to see them drop their shoulders, drop their head. You're going to see them shake their head. And it's going to become more, I've seen it already. When he throws the ball into the dirt, when he starts losing the confidence of that, elite wide receiver core, that is when they're going to have to make a change, because he's going to start losing confidence if he's not hitting those throws and his teammates don't believe in him. And that is starting to, just watch the body language when he misses a throw, when Garrett Wilson is wide open and he overthrows him or underthrows him, or throws it to the inside shoulder when it should be to the outside shoulder. That's when we're going to know. That's when when they are going to have to make a change. Austin?
I don't think you do it until he is the one that's truly costing you games. And to be honest, with how bad that defense is, I don't know if that really happens this year. I think Ohio State loses another game. That defense is awful.
With you.
I think Penn State can go out there and run the ball against them. I think Noah Cain can go out there and do exactly what CJ Verdell did. on Saturday. They're you know it that so. And it doesn't have to be like you're losing the whole game. If you're going into half and CJ Stroud is like 4 for 14, that's the kind of time where you bench him. But he's not losing these games for them yet. Like I think even if the defense had played average on Saturday, they probably still could have won.
So that point, I want to go back to what you just said right there. If at half he's done nothing the first two halves of those games, and I get Oregon. Okay, Oregon is a good defense. I'm not going to argue Oregon. Minnesota last year was like the 110th ranked pass defense and the 90th ranked defensive rush, whatever. I can't think of the exact word. Right now, they're sitting at 112th and 80th. They're not a good defense. CJ Stroud looked like crap that entire first half against Minnesota. He's not winning them games either, though. I agree he's not the reason they're losing. It's the defense, 100%. CJ Stroud would be the fifth or sixth thing I pick on why they're losing. But he's also not winning them the games, which you need to have because Bryce Young is doing that. DJU did that last year. He's not doing that now, but he did that last year. The last thing I want to add on Ryan Day, Felix, you mentioned it. He is a very conservative play caller. A lot of people may not think that because they take a lot of shots deep, but he is a very conservative play caller. It is one of the reasons why I have said from the beginning I thought Kyle McCord should have been the starting quarterback because he has that gunslinger mentality, and he is not afraid to force a ball in there, where I think CJ Stroud is hesitant to do that. And I think that has cost him in a couple of the big throws as well because he seems hesitant to make the throw right then, and he sees the safety coming down, and that's when he's missed some of those players. That's why Besides, again, I am a big fan of him, but that is why I've said from the beginning, I think McCord should have been the starter. I just think he fits better in that offense on the opposite of what Ryan Day does. CJ Stroud is conservative like Day. You cannot have two conservative players like that running your offense because it's going to cost you. Because Austin, Alabama or Ohio State's wide receivers, which would you take right now?
I would take Ohio State's.
Running back, the whole backfield, the whole room. Travion Henderson, mine, Teague's kind of an afterthought. And Alabama's, which would you rather have?
Probably Bama's. It's close, but
it's close.
Bama's. Yeah.
Offensive lines are both very close. I looked at the PFF. I mean, that's the best place I could go and look at the grades. Alabama's is rated, I think it's like 4 spots higher. So you're telling me that Alabama and Ohio State are very close together offensively. Why does Bryce Young look so good and CJ Stroud looks so bad?
I'm not.
You don't have to answer. No,
gunslinger.
You don't have to. He is. That's my point. You didn't have to answer. It was rhetorical, but it's. I don't think CJ Stroud is bad, and if he were on 90% of other schools, I think we would all talk about how great he is, and 2022 is going to be a great year for him. But when you're at a school like Ohio State, you don't get a year. You just don't.
Okay. All right. That's enough. That's enough about the Buckeyes. Let's do one more Devy debate before we move on here to Austin's lukewarm take.
It's got to be that last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that last one is Brock Bowers. Is he already the Devy tight end 2 after Michael Mayer, Austin?
Yes, he is.
How?
I know it's rare to get an Austin bull take like this. Yes, Brock Bowers for pure Devy is the tight end 2 in all of college football. And it's partially because he has completely surpassed expectations at Georgia here to start this season as a true freshman. But it's just a lack of contenders there. I mean, we're presumptive. Michael Mayer is tight end 1. I think that at this point, that's pretty well established. You have Eric Gilbert, who seems like a total head case, cannot get it together at all. I no longer have any sort of expectations for him. If he ends up being really good, cool. I just don't have those expectations anymore. You have Weidermeyer, who's probably the top tight end in this year, the 2022 class. I actually really like Weidermeyer. I just think his athletic upside limits him a little bit in an age where basically all of the top tight ends in the NFL, especially from a fantasy perspective, are really, really good athletes. They're top percentile athletes at the position. Brock Bowers was clocked as the second fastest player in college football last year on that long touchdown that he scored. He is that level of an athlete. I haven't quite yet been able to watch and see him as a blocker. Not that necessarily matters. We just saw Kyle Pitts go top 5. He's not a Kyle Pitts type player, but you still want to be able to see him do a little bit of that. But I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be the tight end 2 in Devy. I would take him over a slew of other guys at the position.
Brock Bowers is 6'4", 230. And I'm guessing that that's being generous as far as his weight.
No,
I don't
I'd guess
have a
he's in the
problem.
230s. I'd guess he's in the 230s.
All right. I don't have a problem with that. It's just that I think we'd like to see that elite size at that position to know that they're going to be an asset on our NFL rosters. But, it's absolutely crazy that you're even putting him there at the tight end too, given that he was behind both Darnell Washington and Eric Gilbert, who are well ahead of him in our rankings. But you're right. I mean, Will Mallory hasn't played well. Theo Johnson, Windsor stand up, has done absolutely nothing. Jalen Wademeyer, we don't have any verified testing for him. So why not give it to the guy who has been ultra productive thus far, Matt Bruning?
Yeah, I agree. The only player I'd put up there that I think can be close to him is who you just mentioned, Felix, and that's Theo Johnson, but we haven't seen anything from him. I don't think we're going to see anything from him until next year when Drew Aller shows up and reinvents the entire Penn State offense.
Seriously, my favorite part about Theo Johnson is that Felix tries to claim him as a Detroiter. He's literally Tina Fey playing Palin, going, "I can see Russia from my house. I can see Windsor from my house." That's Felix as he talks about Theo Johnson. Freaking amazing.
All right, it's time for my favorite segment of the show. Are we ready to go, Matt Bruning, or do you need me? We're ready to go. All right, let's go.
All right. I am 2-0 so far this season on my lukewarm takes. And like Goldilocks, I try to be not too hot, not too cold. I try to be just right. I think I have the perfect hot take this week. Penn State plays Auburn this weekend. Auburn traveling to State College. Auburn has put up 120 points between their first two games, and it is starting to make people talk about Bo Nix again. I think Penn State is going to remind us who Bo Nix is this weekend. For those that don't know, Penn State's defense is only allowing 205 pass yards per game. They have 5 picks, 3 sacks. Nix is in for a long day. I think he probably turns the ball over at least twice. And we are reminded of who Bo Nix is this weekend.
I thought your prediction was that Auburn and Penn State would play this week. I mean, I thought that's what you were saying.
It's hurricane season, baby. We don't know.
Well, I mean, hey, Bo Nix is going to suck like he has for 2 years. I mean, I like it, I guess.
I guess. The Lucas of lukewarm takes. All right. Matt Bruning, do you have anything do you have anything spicier than Austin's lukewarm take?
That's a good question. I had one, and now I can't remember what it was. Why don't you go first, Felix?
Nix is going to look amazing.
Let me go first.
It was Bo Nix is going to go for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, how about this?
Oh, I remember what it was now. But go ahead. Sorry.
How about Jake Haener and the Fresno State Bulldogs late in the evening on Saturday knock off Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins, and the Devy community finally respects Jake Haener, and he goes 28 for 35 for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Bulldogs pull it out. Jake Cropper, Josh Kelly, Ronnie Rivers, Jake Haener, they pull out the upset victory that they couldn't pull out against Oregon, but they do finish the game and win against UCLA. How about that for a spicy take?
I have money on them. They're 11.5-point dogs. I have money on them covering that spread.
There we go. That's almost like Austin agreeing with me. I mean, that's as close as we'll get.
I don't want to give away because that's one of the games we're picking on the tailgate.
Yeah.
But I've already put my answer down, so Matt knows my answer, and I might agree with you on that.
We might get a special
guest.
I
couldn't even find the tailgate show sheet if you asked me to go find it.
We hide it from you. We hide it from you.
Yeah, on purpose. I think that Jaron Hall and BYU are going to easily beat Arizona State this weekend. I think that's going to be one of the very good late window games. I think Jaron Hall is going to throw for 300-plus yards and continue his touchdown with Austin seems very shocked by that.
300.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's thrown for 347 in 2 games, so I think they're going to have to throw to beat it. Algier hadn't done crap, unfortunately. I was all in on Algier, but I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be able to put up points on that BYU defense, so I think Jaron Hall is going to lead BYU to a win over Arizona State. 3 touchdowns, 300 yards. 305, just because I said over 300.
I think it's the opposite. I think it's like a 21-12 game or something. Like,
I think it probably will. It's going to be like 10-9. That's what's going to happen. Yeah.
All right, bold predictions over. Is Chris Moxley here?
No, Chris is not joining the show here this evening.
He is joining the show, and he said that
Mai Tais. Few too many Mai Tais.
He said that everything was good. That we had no mistakes today. I was excellent. You two were okay. All right.
That's the first time. We ready? First time in Devy Debate history, right there. But
how about I start with a parting shot, because I don't have anything written prepared, but I just want to let's tell this story about. Remember in the spring when Ajay Hall was in camp and he had that spring game and made those catches and everyone was like, Ajay Hall. But what about? I had always been high on JoJo Earle, who did not enroll early at Alabama. He decided to stay at his high school in Texas and play in their spring season there that had been moved due to COVID. I think he's always been either 9 or 10. It had JoJo Earle in my rankings. And guess who is second in receiving at Alabama? JoJo Earle. JoJo Earle, second in receiving to John Mechie. Yeah, I mean, if you watched his tape, you just saw explosive and how different he was as a player. He is the type of player that the NFL just prioritized in the NFL draft. Small, fast, explosive. They have not really prioritized these big, lanky, contested catch wide receivers who aren't necessarily separators. I've had this conversation with Austin. Austin believes that Hall is potentially a separator. I don't know. I don't know yet. But I know that JoJo Earle is, and he's an explosive player. And he is second in receiving for Alabama. You know how many catches combined, if you combine them, that Ajay Hall and Ja'Cory Brooks, who was the number 1 receiver in the class, you know how many catches they have for Alabama? 0. 3? Is it 3? I thought it was 0.
I was just guessing. I have no idea.
No, they have no catches. They have no catches, and JoJo Earle is second on the team in receiving. So that is my parting shot.
I mean, it's your parting shot. You should have known the answer to that. You shouldn't have been confused.
I looked at it. No, I did know, but then you held up 3 fingers. I'm like, I thought you were telling me. I'm like, no, they don't have any catches.
You were asking. All right, we are already a third of the way through the college football season. We have already got multiple incredible games, close calls, and even some surprising upsets. We've talked all preseason that this could be a wide open college season, and it's playing out that way. The Heisman favorites coming into the season aren't even in the top 5 anymore. The leading running back is a redshirt freshman who could run the rest of the way and win the Doak Walker Award winner. That's Brandon Thomas for you guys. The elite teams are struggling to win games convincingly. With the way things are trending, we could see our first 2-loss team in the playoffs this year. The Pac-12 has a real shot of getting back in for the first time since 2016 with Washington. Yet with all the changes and turbulence around college football in this landscape, one thing remains the same, and I'm sure you guys can all guess what that is. Stupid Ohio State fans falling into this trap again where we were going to make the playoffs and win a national championship. We're going to lose 2 games this year. Suck it up and get ready for 2022.
Mike Stoops, Luke Fickell, Matt Campbell, James Franklin, all names swirling as potential candidates for the USC job opening recently vacated by Clay Helton. Helton never really fit in at USC, evidenced by his spotty recruiting background there, his inability to keep Southern Californian kids home, and his single New York Six Bowl appearance. And it's questionable as to whether any of those other candidates will bring something to USC that Helton could not. Neither could Steve Sarkisian, to be fair, or Lane Kiffin, or Ed Orgeron in his short stint with the Trojans. All coaches that were working their way up the coaching ladder and made their debuts there at USC. Like Alabama, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, USC is a true destination school. It should attract top candidates with exemplary resumes, coaches that have already proven to be the best of the best. None of those 4 names have sniffed the college football playoff. None look likely to do that anytime soon. That is why the only candidate to take over as head coach of USC Trojans is current Jaguars coach Urban Meyer. I tried to play this close to the vest earlier when we talked. Meyer has won virtually everything there is to win in college football. He built a strong team at Bowling Green when people thought that was not possible, established Utah as a consistent contender, then went to destination schools, Florida and Ohio State, and won national championships at both, including his 2nd season at Florida and his 3rd at OSU. He can pull the quick turnaround. Sure, his pivot back to the NCAA may come with some backlash initially. So did Nick Saban's following his brief stint with the Dolphins. Pete Carroll struggled in his first round with the Patriots. It happens. The NFL and college are 2 completely different animals. And if Urban's first few months in charge in Jacksonville have shown us anything, it's that he is simply out of his league. But winning changes hearts quick. And if there's one thing that Urban Meyer knows how to do, it's win college football games.
Check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family. Lots of stuff going on the website. Lots of stuff going on the podcast channel. Obviously, Canton Bound, Campus Life, Fantasy Roundtable, Why Wait Till Sunday. Both of the shows on bookend your Saturdays with the tailgate in the morning and Coast to Coast to wrap it up at night. But that is going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We will get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. That was really good, Austin.
Yeah, I tried not to say that earlier in the show about who I actually wanted to take